God, might need a guard. Every loss, taken to heart. Me first, that cannot be. Must be these underdog episodes, see? Feeling much better, so suddenly. Under the Monica G. Crafted at night while all of them sleep. I won't look a fool, taking this tool. Defeating the opposition around me. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, I'm taking this knowledge and pride. Just barking no harm, don't be startled. Yes, I'm taking the title, and it's so vital. Thanks for the ride, I'll never be idle. Turn up the dial, it's about to get wild. And the points gon' pile up.
Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog bite down, up at the day and the night. Now, easy as flying a kite. Now, come take a look at it right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 141 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Uriah Dawkins. With me tonight, Billy Beeman. What's up, man?
Not much, dude. Just, getting ready for the draft. We're so close now. We're emptying the notebooks. Like, we're already into it. Like, I'm excited, dude.
I am too. And, this last week has been, I've been on vacation, but just kind of like really gearing up for like the actual, I'm kind of trying to wrap up all the prospect stuff, that's skill position, dynasty, fantasy related itself, and like really kind of dig more into like my own like NFL team a little bit more. So I'm trying to wrap that up. So that's where it all started for me too, was just, who's my team going to take in the first, who's my team going to take in the second. So I'm trying to get more familiar with my own personal teams, kind of it's a juggling act, but I'm trying to be more Dallas Cowboys centric this last week, but.
No, totally hear that. I actually, I have a podcast, the Patriots organization. They have a great media team, and they have a podcast that's been going on for, since the first part of the dynasty. So these guys have been doing it forever, and they're amazing. And they kind of do they do like essentially an NFL they do like a mini version of the Beast of, Dan Buegler's The Beast or whatever, where the Athletic, where he breaks down like everything. So, I've been getting into it too, but for me also this past weekend, just, we were talking about it before we hopped on here with our wide receiver model, and just kind of trying to wrap those things up too, as far as like, the final couple of film reviews that I need to do, or, we're going to be finishing off our rankings as a podcast and get those out there. So it's just, some of the organizational kind of, nuts and bolts stuff, getting it done, wrapping it up.
It seems like, just a few weeks ago, I'm like, I got plenty of time to finish this out, and I'm like, it's here. Like, I
thought so too. I was like, I'm gonna do a video on every one of these prospects, and I'm like, holy crap, there's not enough time anymore.
There's no time.
I was doing I'm recording like 3 a day and trying to get them out, but there's just so much content to produce and so much we're doing that it's I think I need to get it going a little earlier next year to get it out to the people, but we're finding that process every year. That's what we do.
Yes, it's getting better every year, I think. So, what's happening at News and Nonsense? There's very little news this time of year, but there is some news. Let's talk about it. So I guess the biggest one is Jalen Hurts. He got the bag.
The bag, the one. What was it?
Yes.
255 mil?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? Something crazy? It doesn't matter. I mean, the dude just got absolutely paid. It's awesome to see. Obviously, for Dynasty, just kind of solidifies his position as one of the top quarterbacks who also has stability, right? Yeah. With an organization. So to me, it's just more evidence that they're totally with him. He's their guy, and he should remain right up at the top of the ranks. And if he improves any more as a passer, he should only keep going up in the ranks, really.
Yep. Big miss for me on him. They've had so much draft capital the last couple of drafts. I really didn't think that Hurts would. It's hard to project, someone to grow that well, but he's a stud, and he got paid like one, so I'm pretty happy for him. Well, meanwhile, Lamar Jackson still doesn't have a deal. I don't understand, but
it doesn't quite make sense. I'm not sure what's going on there. We heard reports about him having like a $200 million deal, and a lot of that money being guaranteed in some form or another, but that's clearly not the case. I think he would probably be taking something like that, or maybe he has his eyes set on, I want to be paid more than Deshaun Watson because I deserve it. And who knows?
Yes.
But yeah, that is a wild situation. I don't know what to think of it, other than just buy low on Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, he's got OBJ there now. Or probably the ghost stuff.
I don't know if you heard Jagger and I hop on and talk about that, but we were pretty lukewarm on it. I mean, I think he saw a little bit more as a piece to attract Lamar, but I almost wonder if it does the opposite. Like, really, that's all you're gonna get me? Like, just like old and busted, OBJ. Like,
Yeah, it's not 2018 or whatever anymore. I think I saw like his average yards per game is like hasn't broken over 50 in his last 3 seasons have been playing. So, but it's a big name. So there's that.
Yeah.
All right, Trey Lance trade rumors. I mean, I don't think there's a single topic we've talked about more this offseason than those stupid San Francisco quarterbacks. But here we are. Yeah.
They keep popping up. I mean, they're fielding calls for Trey Lance now, and they're saying that Brock Purdy is their likely starter. I mean, but this is a topic that kind of needs to be discussed. I feel like I saw somebody talking on Twitter the other day being like, you're kidding yourself if you think it's going to be Purdy by Trey Lance. And they're telling you everything but that. So, yeah, like a lot of things are coach speak and whatnot, but this one just feels a little more real to me. So, I don't know if somebody's willing to buy Trey Lance off of me at this point, I'm probably going to be listening to whatever that offer is, as long as it's not, a 3rd round pick or something. I might entertain whatever we're talking about there.
Yeah, I think that is probably the smart move. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's just been so much of it now. It's really hard for me to still wrap my head around Mr. Irrelevant earning the job over a guy they spent 3 firsts for. So I don't know if that's like a Shanahan sucks at. I've seen people talk about like Shanahan. He gets a passing along things because he's a really good like coach, right? He gets the best out of all those players, but maybe when it comes to like talent evaluation, maybe kick him out of the room or something. But
was he there when they brought in Debo and Ayuk in them?
I don't remember. Maybe. But they drafted Trey Sermon, and then they ended up starting Elijah Mitchell, who was also, drafted like 4 rounds later or whatever it was. It's something insane like that. They made Trey Sermon inactive week 1. I know you remember that because we drafted him.
We drafted him. Or we had him on our Debbie roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there might be something to that for sure. That said, with Brock Purdy, I mean, it's hard to get over the Mr. Irrelevant thing for sure. But then you go and you look at, the Commanders, and they're talking about Sam Howell as their future starter. So, not Sam Howell's not Mr. Irrelevant, but he's also a 5th round pick.
I forget, later, at least. Yeah.
Later. I mean, he's like a day 3 pick for sure. Yeah. So like, I think it's not it's like becoming more common necessarily, but I think teams are willing to give these guys who actually perform well a chance, right? Like, they're saying that, I mean, obviously the draft can change for the Commanders, and if they go and they get a deal on somebody, they're going to take it, no doubt about it. But I don't know. It just seems like they're more willing to give players a chance these days, regardless of draft capital, if they're able to perform. Now, are they more replaceable? Always. Now, we always talk about that. So I'm not buying into either of these guys, but I definitely see that they are moving on from Lance here. In my opinion, that's what it seems like.
Does seem like that. So yeah, Sam Howell, likely future starter. Like, I guess, we saw them move on from Wentz, and I don't even know where he is right now. Do you have any idea? Is he on a team?
That's a great question. Let's see. He is a free agent. He is not on the team.
He got the bag from Philly not too long ago either.
Yeah, so, he did. Was it the year? It was the year after the injury, right?
Yeah. Then Jalen Hurts will be a free agent in about 4 years.
That is some NFC East math if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I can't help it. I wear it.
I love it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what else are they going to do, right? They're not really in a position to be, unless they really want to trade up to get a quarterback. I mean, the best bet is just to kind of ride with Sam Howell and see what happens in the first place. So Sam Howell was a guy that they were talking about being a first-round guy.
It's true. It's true. And he actually had to deal with a lot not a lot, but he definitely dealt with a tough situation there towards the end of his career. He lost all the talent around him. He ended up rushing for like a ridiculous number of yards in his final season there. So, he obviously wasn't or didn't show to be the prospect that everybody was hoping he was leading into the draft, but he's definitely, I think, a more talented player than he gets credit for and than his draft capital shows. You know, that happens to these quarterbacks sometimes in these drafts. We've seen it year after year where these guys get hyped up, you know, the year before and they come into the draft and they just kind of flop.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's tough. It really is tough with these quarterbacks now because I won't buy into a guy that doesn't have long-term stability. But these guys are getting a shot. They just are.
Yeah. And I think rightfully so. Like if I was that organization, I'd kind of want to see what I have there anyway. If say if, you know, falls flat, then you have some pretty good talent next year. You know, Caleb Williams, etc. So
yeah, shooting for the 24 draft is definitely smart if that's what these
seems like it in Dynasty too.
Yes. And that's every year, right? We were talking about this last year. Buy your 23 picks.
Every year. Yeah.
Buy your 24 picks.
Yeah.
But that class does have some juice to it, definitely from the quarterback position. So it's definitely smart to, I would like, if you have some mid to late round, mid to late 23 firsts, if you can swing them right into a 24 first, that's probably a good idea.
Probably.
If you don't need it right now, if you don't need production right now.
Yep. All right. Tua consider retirement. I think I saw you post on Twitter where the whole quote from him. And
yeah. I'll read it real quick here. I thought it was really interesting because I hadn't seen it before. And I think we're seeing a lot of, and I got to find it, but I think we're seeing a lot of snippets from what he says and just kind of different things that make you think that he was maybe contemplating it in a different way than at least it seems like his thought process went.
Of course. Yeah. It's context matters. So, but it's easy to take, you know, one or two sentences that a guy said and then turn it into clickbait, and it works. And, you know, that is the reporter's job from time to time to kind of just do that. But what I got from that statement was, you know, he's got a good head on his shoulders. So.
Yeah, here it is. So he said, yeah, I think I considered it for a time, referencing retirement, having sat down with my family, having sat down with my wife, and having those kind of conversations. But really, it would be hard for me to walk away from this game with how old I am, with my son. I always dreamed of playing as long as I could to where my son knew exactly what he was watching his dad do. It's my health, it's my body, and I feel like this is what's best for me and my family. I love the game of football. If I didn't, I would have quit a long time ago. That was pretty impactful for me, and not just from like a dynasty perspective, because obviously that's what we do here, but like I am so weird. I get super emotional when it comes to like sports in general. I just get really emotional with that stuff. I don't know why. It's one of the few things I do get emotional with. But like that it is really weird. That kind of
wife's thing. Like, what's wrong with you? You're like, nothing.
No, I'm like, just football stuff. Yeah, no, it's funny, but I was reading that and it hit me in the core a little bit. Like this guy, like that feeling of wanting his kid to see him do it, I just kind of understood that. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But like, I do get the idea of him, like, what that's like, that means to me that he's going to try to play as long as he can for his kid to grow up and see him play. Right.
Yeah.
That is his motivation. His motivation is kind of beyond the game at that point. And that's big. Like that's huge, especially for a guy who's contemplating retirement. That doesn't really sound like he was contemplating retirement. It sounds like something was forcing him in that direction. You read the article, the doctors have told him that he's not at any higher risk than anybody else. Yep. So after I think you get past that part for him, it's almost a no-brainer, no pun intended, but it's almost, yeah, right. I know, but it's almost a no-brainer as far as like, yo, I'm going to come back. I'm going to play this game. I'm super young. I have my whole career ahead of me, and this is what I love to do. So it was really cool to see as a dynasty manager who has a couple Tua shares, you know, definitely quelled some concerns. So it's good to see.
Yeah. I mean, and that motivation as a father, it's strong. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would know.
Yes. You love to hear it. I know. I get up pretty early every morning for that kid. So.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I like how that's how you measure your love. You're like, you know how early I get up for you? Like you're going to tell
shutting that door to go to work in the morning. I'm like, I love him.
I love it. I love it. Oh man.
All right, this is a good question. Is there a bad time to do a startup draft?
I was just, I don't know. We're having some fun here, right? We're on the nonsense part of the show. Like, I was just thinking about this. Is there like right now would probably be an inopportune time to do a startup draft, right? Like a week before the NFL draft.
Why not just wait a week?
Yeah. So, I think that, everybody, especially in Dynasty, is so like excited to get things going. Like as soon, like I think I had a buddy invite me to a league or whatever, and it was a group of guys who I really want to play with. And I was like, totally. And we get in there and all of us totally wanted to start the draft like immediately. This was like a month ago. We're like, let's just like now.
Let's just go.
And
We're
then,
all in, we're all paid up. Yeah.
So somebody's like, maybe like after the draft. And we're like, yeah, I guess that's a good idea. That's fine. So I think there are some times not to do it. And the only other one that hit me was like in season, right? Like during the season while you're playing out all of your other dynasties, starting a dynasty, probably not the best time to do a startup draft. I mean, you could, but it would, I don't know, it'd be kind of, obviously you wouldn't be playing the points out. It would almost be like drafting your team and playing. It's just a terrible time to do it. I don't think you can.
I think probably anytime after free agency is probably the best, right? You want all the information you could get. I mean, I know that we're kind of degenerates, so we can't really wait. And a lot of startups happen way before that. But I feel like if you really want to have like all the pieces to the puzzle, minus the NFL draft, waiting till after free agency is probably the best. That way, kind of what's going on with Miles Sanders, or who's getting re-signed or not, who's getting in trouble in the offseason, all this type of stuff. So
yeah, what was that like? That was right. What was that? When was free agency? Was that
mid-February or something, right?
Okay, that makes sense then.
After the Super Bowl, a few weeks, first week of March, that type of deal.
Yep. Yeah, because after that, once you get mid-March and beyond, you're flirting with the NFL draft stuff, and crazy things can happen. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's not that serious, but I do think that there are some times to avoid and some times to hop into it. I think, yeah, you're right. After free agency, after the NFL draft, probably the two of the better times to get into it. And
on the other hand, it's always a good time.
It is always a good time. Like I said, we were ready to hop right into it. So it's always a good time. But I think that, especially for newer people, like you can't do it like that, especially for your first dynasties. Like the startup draft matters so much in Dynasty, and especially if you're newer to Dynasty. Like you don't want to be messing with outside factors. You just kind of want the slate to be really clean and for everybody to be playing on a level field.
Yes, definitely. That's really good advice for newer players. Like don't be drafting your dynasty startups when the playoffs are going.
Don't let somebody convince you, if they're trying to convince you of that, or to do your rookie drafts before the NFL draft.
Run.
They're playing you.
Yeah.
They're playing you for sure.
Yeah, I don't care how good you are in redraft. Once you start doing dynasty, there's just guys who've been playing longer that we talked about, I think, episode 1, episode 2 of this thing, years ago. Like they will take advantage of you, and rightfully so. So
yeah, you got it. You're jumping in with sharks. You got to be able to navigate the waters, right?
That's right.
Oh boy! All right.
So yeah, we're gonna empty the notebook part 2. I know that you and Jaeger last week took care of quite a few prospects, but I'll try to keep up. I'll let you lead the way here, bud.
No. I mean, honestly, last week was, I think, missing some of your flair, bro. It was really 2 film bros just diving into it, grinding the film.
Yeah. Oh shoot. Well, who you got?
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, so yeah, film. What am I talking about here? What are we doing here? Okay, we're emptying the notebook. So if nobody's been a part of this, yeah, we're just kind of going to chop it up about some guys, throw out our thoughts. I'm going to really just give you highlights of my film study, my film notes, and we'll just spew about some guys. But I do want to get into some guys that we haven't talked about. Last week, I wish that Jagger and I got into a couple of players that that we hadn't really talked about. I kind of think I went back over like the Tyler Scotts, my guys, the Charlie Jones. But, we did get into Parker Washington. I don't think we really talked about Parker Washington too much. But we didn't talk about anybody kind of lower down the ranks. So I do want to talk about some guys like Jonathan Mingo, maybe Cedric Tillman.
Tillman would be nice, yeah.
right? So we can talk about Tillman. Let's do that too. Maybe a Nate Dell or a Tank Dell. Sorry, use his fun name, Tank Dell, and then we can maybe get into a Keishon Butte or something like that. Somebody who is kind of really tumbled down the ranks. Oh yeah, nosedive. So
Those are
I figured
perfect.
a couple different guys there that haven't really been touched on and that we're gonna want to know about going into the draft. So first one, let's talk about Jonathan Mingo, if you're cool with that.
Yep.
So Jonathan Mingo was a guy who the first thing that I thought about was he's at Ole Miss after AJ Brown, after DK, and after excuse me, and after Elijah Moore, right?
Yes.
And then I just heard nothing about this wide receiver core, and I'm like, that for some reason that doesn't make sense. Like I feel like they'd probably have a decent player there behind them. And then I heard Jonathan Mingo's name, looked him up. I'm like, oh, he has a pretty good size to him, I felt like. And when I started watching him, I thought he was a little bit better than I expected. So one thing that didn't stand out to me or that I thought he struggled with, and I'll just start there, was separation, specifically separation, elusiveness, and then burst, right? I think he was average after the catch. We don't really need to talk about that. Above average route runner, in my opinion, really good hands. I did think he struggled sometimes with beating press, but I'd label him about average there. Just getting into some of the notes real quick here, just highlights. So, okay, route runner, would like to see more technique. Did see a bit more as I watched, mainly sharp breaks at stem, but not much else. So he has good suddenness when he's breaking off his routes, making cuts on his routes, but I wouldn't say that there's too much, head fakes, really just, a lot of the technique that you see from really good route runners. So could be better, but not bad. Above average hands, good to average speed, not super dynamic after the catch, not super elusive after the catch. But if he does get loose, he can take it to the house. You saw that against a team like Vanderbilt. Very physical, very strong. But to that point, you don't see him really get a ton of separation. It's more that he fights guys off in tight spaces, but you don't see him kind of really pull away from guys. And it might be because he doesn't have that extra gear to kind of take off from guys. So I think he could struggle with some press coverage and whatnot. But for the most part, I think he's a strong candidate. If he gets some decent draft capital, he could be a good player in the league, I think. So what does he show kind of from the numbers?
It's not great, to be honest here. That's okay. I mean, we'll talk about his athleticism. Very athletic, which is going to be good for him. Bodes well for a guy who's probably going to be later drafted. Runs a 4.46, speed scores 96 percentile, burst scores 91 percentile. The guy's not a slouch. But he played 4 years. He played 4 years at Ole Miss behind some really good competition. But he never really did much as far as target share goes until this last year, 2022, which kind of makes sense. Kind of the guys he's been playing behind that you had mentioned already.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go to our sheet here that we've been putting together, we have 21 wide receivers ranked. And this does not include draft capital yet, but he is our 21st wide receiver on the list.
Okay.
So I'll get into some things. He breakout age, 21 years old, so he's a little bit older guy. But again, that breakout happened because he's played 3 studs, throughout his time there in college. So, but we've seen with other really good wide receivers that doesn't necessarily matter. If you're good, you'll earn your targets. And dominator rating was average dominator is 19.1%, which is pretty low. Adjusted yards per team pass attempt is 1.5. Obviously, you want to see that around 2. That puts him kind of towards the lower half of maybe the bottom third of all the people that we've charted here. Routes per team pass attempt 1.8. Again, that number is below 2, which is just not great. Targets per route run is 18.2%, which is kind of sad. You definitely want that over 20. And then, PPR points per game, it's 11.8. I mean, really all the studs that we're looking at, you're looking for something around 15 or more, and he just never really got there. So from what I see, he doesn't really dominate. Didn't dominate young. When he was older and had his best season, it still wasn't anything that stood out on the sheets. Not a guy personally that I'm excited about whatsoever. But I didn't watch his film.
I
so
mean,
don't
that's good. No, that's good perspective. And I don't think you could listen to what I just said about his film and think that I was overly excited about watching him necessarily.
Yeah.
I just think that I think that he could definitely turn into like a wide receiver 3 on a team. You know
Sure.
what I mean? Something like that. And that can be useful at times, and he could maybe elevate his game. Maybe there's something we didn't see. I do think I heard somebody talk about this, and just looking back at the quarterback, I know that they're getting Jackson Dart in there this year, but I believe last year it was Spencer Sanders, who is not good. So I don't think that he had great quarterback play while he was the main target there. And to your point, he couldn't really elevate above the guys before him, though they were absolute studs. You still want to see them get on the field, right? You still want to see them do something and demand targets, and that's not what he did. So
you do. It kind of reminds me like Jameson Williams, Ohio State, and he's playing behind Chris Olave. But he moved on, and when he moved on and had the opportunity, he balled out.
That's a great point. So
Mingo didn't quite do that.
It'd help if he had Bryce Young. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or Mac Jones or whoever the hell Jameson Williams was playing with that year, but definitely better than whatever Jonathan Mingo was strapped with. That said, he's down at the end of my wide receiver film grades. He's down at the end of our wide receiver rankings. So a guy to just kind of keep your eye on, see what happens with the draft, but definitely not somebody we're super excited about. Let's hop into Cedric Tillman, a guy who I think we may have a little bit more and better things to say about.
Yes.
So I'll just say right off the rip here, and this just on the film too, not by much, but I did think Cedric Tillman was a better player than Jalen Hyatt with both their time at Tennessee. Yes. That's where it was, right? Tennessee, Texas.
Tillman, Texas, right?
They're both the same team. I don't know where I am right now. Tennessee. They're Tennessee.
Right.
Yeah. Hold on. Now you're making me question myself. Yes.
I was just thinking a lot of my Dallas Cowboys beat writers and all that are really high on Tillman, so they always fall in love with the native guys. But he went to Tennessee.
Guys.
But he went to Tennessee. Yeah.
Both of them did. Yeah. So he, on film, I thought he stood out just a little bit more. They actually, I didn't even notice this. They came out with the same film grade for me, the same score, but I did put him up there higher. And it's for the reasons I thought he was a little bit better of a route runner than Hyatt. I think he's got really good hands, and I think he has pretty good yak ability for the bigger player that he is. I was pretty surprised at that part of his game. Now, I do think he lacks some burst. He doesn't get going super fast, and he's not just shot out of the cannon off the line or anything like that. And he's not elusive. You're not going to see this guy, making guys miss an open field left and right. It's just not what he does. And while he does separate okay, I think it's more about his route running than it is about his ability to kind of, make late separation with his, physicality or anything like that. So I think it's mainly with him, route running hands and pretty good yak ability for the player that he is. So the thing I'll say about him from my notes is quick feet during the release for a big man, which is great to see. Good ability, quickness after the catch for his size. Good physicality at the line and after the catch. Runs with aggression. He does lack top speed for deep separation, and that's what I was kind of mentioning there. Would have to win off of physicality, if anything. Good speed, but not elite. Lacks elusiveness and burst. So a lot of the things I kind of mentioned just looking at how I graded his attributes, right, is kind of the things I'm mentioning in the notes here. So I like him a good bit. I think that for this class, he's one of the guys who has a little more allure, I think, for some NFL teams because he's a bigger body guy and there's not many of them here. So does he pop up? Does he pop out does he pop out in the spreadsheets at all for us, or is it looking down again?
It's a little bit down. I just realized I have his years in college wrong. So this is actually going to knock him a little bit here.
Okay.
Looks like he was in Tennessee 2018 through 22. So technically 5 years there.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's good. This is why we're here. I could fix that. So, but Speed score 79th percentile, burst score 79th percentile. He runs a 4.5, but 4.5 for a guy who's 6'3", 213 isn't really all that concerning.
Mm-hmm.
PPR points per game throughout college is 20.3. Target per route run is 17.6, which is again not great. We talked about that earlier. But his receiving yards per team pass attempt is 2.8. That's good. Adjusted yards per team pass attempt is 2.2, which puts him kind of right in the middle of the pack with everybody else's. Average dominator was 37%, which is great. Love to see that. Break at age 21. Again, not the best. So just kind of like a late bloomer. A little bit different than, say, Mingo, where it looks like, Tillman kind of actually produced within his team a little bit better than Mingo did. But they both have some kind of question marks as far as production, the age at which they started producing and all this stuff, which still to me really matters, right? We've talked about it plenty before. As an older prospect or a guy who just kind of bloomed late, it's going to knock him a little bit, but he's a guy.
Okay. That should be the headline for this. He's a guy.
Yeah. Some of the Cowboys beat writers and stuff, I don't know if you know John Owning, like he kind of expands not just the Cowboys, but just the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've definitely heard the name. Yeah.
But he mostly a defensive guy, but he was talking about, Tillman in the second to the Cowboys, and he'd be super happy with that. So
that actually sounds pretty good.
I mean, if he gets second round draft capital, that will be really good for him. Kind of like a guy like Zay Flowers. So if he gets in the first or second, but yeah, Tillman, he's a guy.
One thing, and we did get the draft, or not the draft capital stuff. Sorry, the years in college, right? We did get that from Peter Howard's database, and I just looked at Cedric Tillman's college stats page, or his player. What is this called now? It's not their profile, but sports reference page. That's what it was. And it looks like it's essentially stat heads, like college side of things, Pro Football Reference, College Reference. Anyway, I noticed that he was a freshman twice, played only one game his first year, and I wonder if that was either injury related or transfer related. I'm not sure what it was, and obviously, no matter what, that impacts his breakout age. No matter what, that does that. But I'm wondering if maybe he is marked down as, or if they aren't counting that first year for some reason. I don't know what the reason was there, but I'm wondering if that's why he was marked that way and not more years.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just looking at it. It was interesting.
Those Debbie guys, they would know. They'd be like, well, he went to high school in Shawshank, Alabama was a. It's like, I can't do all that.
No. Well, that first year, really, he was still in high school, but he was allowed to go to some college classes and be on camp. No, yeah.
Running start. I don't know.
It could be anything. Okay, cool. Those are some interesting ones. We're a little bit more lukewarm on those than, well, you're a little bit lukewarm on those, and it's not you. It's just the numbers are than I thought we would be. Let's talk a little bit about Tank Dell. I mean, this guy, if he turns sideways, you can barely see him. He's so small. But I really liked what I saw from this guy on film, dude. He is much higher than he probably should be in my film grades. And I'm not saying that I graded him wrong or anything, but just for the size he is and unfortunately probably the lack of draft capital that he's going to get, he just looks so damn good on film. And if anybody wants to see a really filthy route, I posted one a while back on the DFF YouTube channel, and it's like a minute and you can see it's really awesome. He's a really, really good route runner. I think he's an above average route runner, first of all. Doesn't get great separation, mainly due to his size. Doesn't beat press well, mainly due to his size. Has great hands, great elusiveness, really good burst, and okay yak ability. So I think he exhibits a lot of the traits that you want to see from a wide receiver. Unfortunately, even when you have the traits, when you're this small, he's like 160, doesn't always translate to the NFL, but just really good burst and acceleration and bend from the lower body, just good wiggle, jumps off the screen immediately, can pace speed through his routes, just above average hands. Like really, I even noted this, really impressive. So really good hands, really smooth without a hitch. He can beat press. And I highlighted that, can beat press, but stronger corners do generally win. But he has a great release, so that's how he beats the press coverage, right? It's really going to be the footwork and release. If he can gain separation there, he generally can get away from the defender. You do see some intent and ability to get on defenders' toes with routes, and he does stick with the play with the QB, good suddenness at the stem of routes, like just a lot of the good fundamental things you want to see from a wide receiver. But he also has some flair to him, and it just sucks because I don't think we're gonna really see him get an opportunity. But how does he look on the by the numbers at least?
Pretty good. Shout out to
oh, here we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Fishing for value. I got one.
Player profiler for doing a little bit of background there. Apparently, he had his little JUCO career before he ended up going to Houston. Played 3 years at Houston. Slightly older prospect. He's 23 years old. So let's get that. That's something to note. But his 3 years at Houston, his final 2 years, he earned 136 targets, 154 targets. 1,300 yards both years, almost 1,400 yards his last year. Production through the roof there. 5'8", 165. I hate to be that guy, but it's I feel like we should stop there, but it's just too good. Everything else on the sheets is amazing, right? PPR points per game, 19.8. Target per route run, 25%. His receiving yards per team pass attempt, over 2, it's 2.4. It's really good for him. Adjusted yards per team pass attempt is 2.4. Again, you're seeing that over the 2 mark, almost 2.5. Yards per route run, 4.1. 4.1. Average dominator, 31.6. Breakout age of 20. It's probably closer to 21. It's he was almost 21. But even for a small guy, I know some people care about this. I know I do still. His BMI is over 25. So he's short, but he's built. And maybe give him some time into the NFL, and maybe he could be a guy. He's just tiny, but everything else on the sheets, I love this guy. I really do.
Man, he in our pre-draft, in our pre-DC, so no draft capital included, which is a pretty big input here. He's 6th in our wide receiver model, which is absolutely insane for a guy who is coming in this small to be able to produce that much and let the numbers kind of elevate him that way. And it's not the film. We don't weight my film grade we don't weight it that much, bottom line, not that much. We don't weight it that much, bottom line, because we know that there's subjectivity in there no matter how good you are at this. And we're trying to negate that, obviously. So I just think it's really impressive that he kind of falls in there anyway. And I think with the NFL, not ignoring size, they're not ignoring it, but much more open to smaller built players getting opportunities. I think I'm going to be willing to take a shot on Tank Dell because he's going to be super cheap unless the NFL drafts him, which they do draft small guys sometimes in the second or something like that. If he gets that draft capital, but this was not Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell, no, he did. And I mean, Tavon Austin was a first round pick, I think, right? There's all sorts of guys get drafted for all sorts of reasons. And I'm sure Jalen Hyatt will get drafted over Tank Dell. But personally, I would rather Tank Dell because I think Jalen Hyatt would be a really good NFL receiver. He'll open up the field for guys. He'll do stuff for NFL teams that matters. But I do think that Tank Dell has more of has more upside as a fantasy option if he gets to the heights that he could get to potentially. So I think he's going to be a guy who you could easy get in the 3rd, probably 4th round of your rookie drafts. And I'm totally going to be looking to take a shot on him there.
Yeah. Going back to recent drafts, you had guys like Rondell Moore and Wan'Dale Robinson are not large human beings, but teams were willing to just bank on the talent and production. It might be a little bit smaller, but I think wide receivers, we're seeing it over the last few years. There aren't that many AJ Browns or, going back Des Bryant's, and there's not a lot of those 6'3", 220X receivers out there anymore. They're getting a little bit smaller, a little bit shiftier. And I think, as a dynasty community, maybe we need to adjust on that too. Because it seems like teams are. It's not, people aren't getting shorter, right? They're just, what the NFL is looking for in receivers is just it's a little bit smaller frame, it seems like. So.
And the college game, obviously the college game is impacting it too, but it's that the game has shifted to where it's more of a passing game. it's more of a speed game. And so smaller guys are going to be more impactful in those situations. Not they're going to be more impactful than bigger guys, but they're going to get more opportunities these days, with that being the trajectory of things. So especially in college, you see guys like Tank Dell, where size doesn't necessarily matter as much when you get to the NFL, and physicality, where those guys are just like the elite athletes, where he can get a lot more opportunities. It's just, is he good enough to be better than, or be able to withstand whatever he's going to face in the NFL? And can, like you said, with a developmental program in the NFL, can he build up, 10 pounds or something like that? And which is definitely possible, and still be as fast as he was, So that's definitely part of it. I like what I see. I'm pretty excited to see what happens with him on draft day. Awesome. Okay. I'm trying to think if we talked about Marvin Mims last week, but he's getting a bunch of buzz. I feel like we got to talk about him just a little bit here. Did we do a profile on Marvin Mims?
We did not.
We did not. Okay, so let's talk about Marvin Mims real quick. He's a guy who's definitely getting a lot of buzz over the past couple of weeks, and I just got asked about him on Twitter as well from one of our DFF guys. He's an interesting dude, above average separator, above average route runner, average at beating press, well above average hands, lacks the elusiveness, lacks the yak ability, but really good burst. More of a straight line speed receiver, shows up on the film. He is fast, and I believe that he ran like a 4.38 or something, like something ridiculous. He was really fast. Signs of some nuance in his route running, less technique on in-breaking routes, but I think he lacks the bend and wiggle after the catch, like I said. Good release. Would like to see a bit quicker off release versus press specifically. But the more I watched, and I noted this here, the more I watched, he did show a quicker release more consistently. Can put his foot in the ground and accelerate at hyperspeed. Does get to top end speed fairly quickly and shows good acceleration through his routes to separate from defenders. So he also shows ability to fight through contact. He's not the biggest guy, but I do think he has a good frame. And even, despite whatever the numbers show him in height and weight, it looks to me like he can build that up a little bit. Obviously not his height is his height, but he looks like he has a pretty substantial frame to kind of add some weight to. He exhibits understanding of leverage during route running, leaning into defenders or directions, and using spacing zones to stop and change direction to separate from defenders. So there's a lot more nuance in his game than I think I expected to see. I was pretty impressed by him. So I think that he's a guy who's getting like some second round buzz, and I'll tell you what, if he gets that, he's going to rise up the ranks pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy I could get behind here on the sheets. Played 3 years at Oklahoma. Never less than 610 yards. Was his first year, finishing up 1,000 yards in his third and final season there. Oh, what do we got here? Yeah, 5'11", 183. He runs a 4.38, 94th percentile speed, and burst score is 131.7.
Whew.
Yeah. Boom.
Yes.
It's cool. I think
5'11". Okay, that's the frame I'm talking about, not small.
That's fine. If that becomes closer to 5'11", 190, like what are we even talking about, right?
Right. Exactly.
So one thing that's kind of stood out here compared to all the other prospects that we have charted here is I think it's a PFF stat, which is the elusive rating. It's over 100, 102.5, which puts them pretty close to the very top of the. So what you're talking about,
wow.
Maybe ability in open space to kind of avoid tackles or, yards after the catch type of thing. Seems to me like that's something that he probably is pretty good at doing.
Okay.
Target per route run is 23.3%, over 20%, which is fine. Receiving yards per team pass attempt is 2, which is good. That's kind of a benchmark or a bucket that we like our guys to be in. And yeah, yards after the catch per attempt is 3.8. That's going to put him the highest out of everybody we have charted here besides Xavier Hutchinson, of all people.
Oh, no, Xavier Hutchinson. Another one we haven't really talked about too much.
Nope.
Okay, yeah.
That's yards per route run 2.7. So he's a guy that has really produced. Analytically, kind of hits most of those marks you really want to see at breakout age of 18 here. So 23% dominated. There's really nothing not to like about him, to be honest with you.
He's up there at fourth in our model right now, which is pretty impressive. And just looking at my film grades here, if I bump him up very slightly in the elusiveness and yak areas just to kind of see. He rises up to the top of here as well. So, maybe that was something that I missed. Maybe it's something that I didn't see in the games I watched, whatever it was. But yeah, he seems like a guy who we might be sleeping on just a little bit, and the draft is probably going to fix that for us. So
I think so.
Okay, cool to see. All right, last one here we'll talk about. I mean, unless there's somebody else you want to talk about, you can totally throw a guy out there. But I did want to touch on Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
He's just a guy who I'm a lot lower on than consensus, I think. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe consensus is kind of middling out on him now. But just a guy who I wasn't impressed with when I watched him. And I'll say right off the bat, he did look better in 21 than in 22, the year before he was injured.
He got injured, right?
Yeah, totally. He got injured. And maybe that was part of it, him recovering, or maybe he lost a step after it. I'm not quite sure. But I didn't really see the separation. I saw okay route running for sure. Didn't see a lot of him beating press coverage. I saw drops on film, to be honest. Like, I don't even need to look at my notes. I remember watching it. I saw a good amount of drops on film. Not really elusive, not much burst, which I think, his speed and his burst was part of like his allure at his size. And I didn't really see it there. He does have okay yak ability. I gave him above average grade there in the yak department, but just underwhelming overall for me. I don't think he showed much quickness or deceptiveness at the release or through the routes. Pretty bland is what I put in my notes. Don't see a ton of separation. Almost labors through some of his routes. And look, maybe I'll give him the benefit of doubt there and say that that's from injury. Some are smooth with subtle detail, but it's just not consistent. Shows some pacing. Good movement to show downfield and sit down on defenders sometimes. He does bend and round a good deal of his routes, which is not something you want to see from a guy like this. Somebody at a big school who is a high-level prospect, not sharp when cutting or breaking. I wouldn't describe him as agile or laterally quick necessarily. And yeah, drops. That was the last thing on my notes here. Drops.
That's not good. All right, 5'11", 195, decent size frame, runs a 4.5. Other than that, all his kind of like you were alluding to, like you don't see him as being like this quick twitch, elusive, very athletic type of guy, and pretty much all his athleticism scores kind of show that to him just to be kind of average in those departments. But as a true freshman, I think he was playing alongside Terrace Marshall. And so, yeah, Terrace Marshall in his first rookie year, and he still put up 735 yards in 10 games.
Okay.
But there's not a whole lot to like about him analytically here. Besides his breakout age was like 18. He was really young, went out there and performed right away, which is great. We love to see that. Target per route run, 22%, which is over 20, which is fine. Receiving yards per team pass attempt, it's 1.6. That's under 2. We don't like to see that. His adjusted yards per team pass attempt is 1.7. His yards per route run, 1.9. Dominator rating, 18.5. So pretty much all those production buckets that were just kind of trying to gather these guys up and put them into, you have a better chance to succeed, than these guys right here. He's fallen below pretty much all his thresholds for me. I would like to like him more than I do because he has a really cool name. But as far as kind of production goes, being on a team like LSU, you would kind of expect to see something a little bit better out of like a true stud. What he did early in his career is promising, and I bet the W guys really liked him years ago. But just since then, it's been kind of like lackluster, and there's just not like a whole lot to get me excited about him.
I mean, when you have to try to prop him up by mentioning Terrace Marshall, there's a...
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
Didn't he play there with like Chase one year or something like that too?
Yeah, he would have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I'm not super, I'm whelmed. I'm very whelmed. Definitely not overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. I definitely want to stop people from going out and paying too much for Kayshon Boutte. I definitely would not draft him in the second round of drafts or anything near that at all.
I seen,
at
some
all.
tweets were talking about, his production, what he was doing on the field before his injury. And
Yeah.
that was pretty exciting. And then it's just kind of the whole career has not been really something that I'm really trying to invest in.
He definitely had more burst in his game in 21. He had a little more speed for sure, but all the other stuff I kind of felt was still there. But unless there's any other wide receivers you want to talk about, we can hop over to the tight ends.
No, that's good with me.
We haven't really talked about any of the tight ends, have we?
I haven't really got into them too much, to be honest with you.
You know what I was gonna?
I'm kind of learning. Go ahead.
No. I was gonna bring up about Kayshon Boutte before, which we can kind of lead into it with the same thing I'm talking about here with tight ends. But I just remembered I wanted to mention this. His RAS score was absolute dog shit. Okay, Kayshon Boutte had like a 4 RAS score or something like that. It was sub 5, and his vert was like as low as it could be. He got like a 1 grade from the RAS card or something. It was like absolutely atrocious. So
yeah, second percentile burst score.
Like I said, not much burst there, man. I mean, Jesus Christ.
It's kind of like David Bell all over again. But
yeah, I guess it is. But David Bell was not nearly as a highly touted prospect. I mean, I guess
he was more productive
for the fantasy community. He was, but yeah, he was a good player. David Bell was a good player in college, especially, and he still has hope. Yeah, he still can be.
He still can be. Yeah, it's only 1 year.
I love it. So leading into the tight ends with the RAS talk, one of the biggest things for tight ends historically is RAS scores, athleticism, right? Like a high RAS score is something that you want to see from your tight ends. Above 7 is kind of the threshold that I've seen. Once you get below that mark, it's getting real shady. And I think we'll just start with the top here. We haven't talked much about it. Michael Mayer, right? He kind of falls in the lower side of the RAS, around 7-ish area. I know that, but I have to mention that Mark Andrews also posted a RAS score of around 7. Actually, I think it was lower than Michael Mayer's. Now, he is a little bit bigger, probably a little more explosive, especially just based on the metrics there. But I think they're close enough in athleticism. And obviously, you can't go 1-to-1. He might Mark Andrews might have that dog in him or something, right? He might just be better. Like he just so there's obviously other factors, but I just want using him as an example of a guy who reached the heights that we want to see. When I watch Michael Mayer, easily, far and away, the best tight end in this class, far and away. He above average, well above average route runner, good separation, great hands, okay elusiveness, but I'd still give him above average mark there for, we're grading tight ends here for a tight end. Above average yak ability and above average blocking. Now, this year I've made an adjustment because I don't think that we can weight blocking the same. Like, I don't think we can weight blocking the same as all other attributes for any position, really. Yeah. So I've kind of weighted that down a little bit. And either way, he far surpasses anybody else on the tight end grades this year. I just think when I watch him, I'm not even going to look at my notes on this. When I watch him, he reminds me so much of the top end tight ends we've seen in this league, in the way that he moves, in the way that he operates on the field. Now, I'm not saying he's as explosive as Kittle or Kelsey or Andrews, but he certainly shows those elements. And the movement is very, very similar. When I don't know how you watch Michael Mayer and don't go, wow, he could really be he could be the next Mark Andrews, the next track. Like, he looks like that. And yeah, I know he's not as athletic, but I just think with his skill set, with his ability to kind of work within his frame and within the position, I think he has all the fundamentals down. He's going to be a great blocker. He'll be on the field all the time, but he also has a skill set to ensure that he'll get those routes. He'll be running routes. He's going to earn targets. So I like Michael Mayer a lot. I hope that he goes to a place that is in need of a tight end that is going to use them, because that's really what he needs. He needs the opportunity at this point. And it takes time for these guys to break out. I will not pay a first for a guy like Michael Mayer. I won't do it, but I like him a lot.
Yeah. So that's something that I've kind of learned on my little dynasty journey, is not really drafting tight ends in the first round of my rookie drafts. I got, David Njoku, knowing that, at times it took like years for that to even pan out. I feel like it's just kind of a waste of a pick. You could always get these guys later. But yeah, I mean, he's ideal size. His 40-yard dash, 71 percentile. Speed score, 73rd percentile. Good breakout age. Great dominator in college. Pretty much produced as soon as he stepped on the field for Notre Dame. Target share of 17% his rookie year, 22% the next year, and then 31% the next year. Earning 105 targets last year, 99 targets the year before. So, like you were saying, this is a guy that's going to be on the field for all the things that he does well at the tight end position, but also for us when it comes to dynasty. Like he's appears to be a very good catcher of the ball. So, yeah, I'm excited about him. I think this is a guy that I've seen mocked in the first round quite a bit. So we'll see where he goes. So probably be the first tight end taken off the board.
He should be. And we're going to talk about the guy who a lot of people probably think should be taken over him next. But I think we are so overthinking this with tight ends now. I think that everybody's chasing the next guy, right? Chasing the next Kelsey, who was late round, who is not the first guy, who all of them, every one of these guys, Mark Andrews, all of them, they were all not the first guy considered in the tight end department, right?
Yeah.
This guy is going to be, and he looks like those guys when he plays. Let's just not overthink it. He's the top tier here. He's the top end here. And again, I'm not saying you should pay up for him. I will have probably 0 shares of him, and I will get him on my team come 2025 for
there you go.
cheaper. And he will then produce for me in that next year, because he'll finally have developed into the tight end we want him to be.
That's what happens. That's how this works.
So I'm not saying overpay for him, but I'm telling you he's damn good at what he does, and he has all of the traits you want for a top 5 fantasy tight end, in my opinion.
Love hearing that.
Okay. Next one we got to talk about is Dalton Kincaid. All right, this guy is out of Utah. Everybody's talking about him as, he's such an elite pass catcher. I saw a video. Does he not look like Travis Kelce No, he doesn't. Sorry, he doesn't look like Travis Kelce. But definitely a good separator, above average, same mark as Michael Mayer, similar marks in the hands department, good hands, similar marks in the elusiveness department, similar marks in the yak ability department. I don't think he's nearly as refined of a route runner as Michael Mayer, and that's more about technique within the route, right? It's more about being sudden at the top of the route and those kind of things. I don't necessarily think he's that. I think he wins with a little bit more of his athleticism and just being faster and bigger kind of than most guys that he's playing against. Terrible blocker. Again, I weighted that differently, so it's not going to impact his grade as much compared to, Mayer or the next guy, right? He is still the second tight end on my grading scale here. Not far and away, I would say. There's a guy close to him, but definitely well below Mayer. Good release, quick feet, bad blocker. Route technique is fine, but not refined. Would like to see more nuance. Does show some good pacing. Also some yak ability. Really not seeing much other than a smooth mover. That's really, I'll leave it at that. I could get into some more stuff. I think he's more of a flex tight end, but really just not seeing much more than a smooth mover. And to me, that's Mike Gesicki. Maybe you get Mike Gesicki plus. I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki was very, very athletic. I don't know if Dalton Kincaid is. I don't really have his testing in front of me, but 6'4", 246, great size. Productions, it's not the greatest. He has 107 career receptions in college, so it's not a ton there, right? 96 targets last year, 46 targets the year before. Target share of 21.7 his final year. Maybe that's a system thing. Maybe Utah doesn't throw to the tight ends very much. I don't know. I don't really watch Utah play, but nothing here that's super crazy as far as athleticism, which is one of the things that I think really stands out the most for tight ends, as we've talked about before. But I like what you're saying. They got him comped to Isaiah Likely, that's okay with me.
Isaiah Likely. Okay, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention, I was trying to pull up his Raz card here to just see, but he's 30 years old, and I don't think anybody wants to mention that. He's 24 years old. The guy's old, bro. In tight ends, yeah, they can last.
That's tight end prime, bro.
Right. He's already in his prime, which might be why he was dominating against the competition in college, right? He's also much older and much more developed than the guys he's playing against. So I think that he could be kind of a trap play. Look, I saw him get taken. We did a DFF mock draft and he got taken in the first round of the Superflex mock draft. Along with Mayer, both of them did. Just out of your minds. I'm telling you, you guys are out of your minds. Like, I don't know what to do with you. I really don't. Okay. I got to mention one here. I just have to. And a lot of people probably never heard of this guy, but Will Mallory. I think I mentioned him last week with Jagger. But this guy out of UM, dad's a coach in the NFL. His grandfather is like this all-time coach in college. And he's right below these other guys. He's my third tight end in film grades. Just really good route runner, really good hands, really good yak ability for his frame. I was pretty impressed with what he could do because he seems like he seems like he'd be just kind of lumbering, and he's not. He's just good. And he's a good blocker. And I think he says average elusiveness and I mean, not a ton of separation, definitely not like Mayer or Kincaid in that regard, but he's a good route runner and he shows really good traits, I think. He grades out really well in all the other traits. So smooth off release, keeps pace throughout, big body who's far more athletic than he should be, like a big baby. That's what I wrote. He needs an NFL weight room to bulk up, lean out a bit. So I think he kind of has like extra weight on him, but he moves well for it. So I think he just needs to get in shape. Route running is average, bends some of his routes, but also shows some detail and nuance on downfield routes specifically. Definitely would like to see sharper routes. Gets some late separation with size, wouldn't describe as agile or laterally quick, but has great hip movement and bend to evade defenders. Strong physical runner after the catch, definitely some yak ability, really good catch to run transition. So he's a good pass catcher and he does show some ability to block. So I have a feeling that, with his lineage and everything, he's probably going to get on an NFL team with higher draft capital than we expect. And I think he's going to be a decent catch.
I like that. I like the history, as far as family goes there.
Yeah.
Yeah. 6'5", 240.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. It'd be 6'5", 245, whatever. Like, that's a really good size for a tight end, right? What's really good is we like athleticism with tight ends. Like, that's the one thing that matters the most. So 40-yard dash is 95th percentile, speed score 93rd percentile, burst score 83rd percentile, agility and catch radius or whatever. So, he's athletically talented and gifted. It's funny you call him a big baby because like his photo looks like he's old too. He's like almost 24, but he looks like he's like 17 still.
Is he really old? That sucks. Oh wow.
Yeah,
really killing me on the Kincaid comp there. With the
I'm
24.
sorry about that. You're like, I love this guy, but this guy's old too. 5 years at Miami.
You know what the difference is? Is Will Mallory I can get after the draft is over on waivers.
Yeah, way after. Yeah, it's like Bellinger all over again. Only Bellinger got kind of nuked by Waller, but whatever.
You know what? I don't think we're veering off of the notebook here, but I kind of take exception to that. I think this is good for Bellinger, or at least not bad for Bellinger. I'm not going to say it's like beneficial, but it could be. He has a tight end who's really good at the things we want for fantasy that he can learn behind, while he's also going to stay on the field because he's a good blocker. They're going to run plenty of 2 tight end sets. And then in a year or two, when Waller inevitably, is out of the league, you're going to have Bellinger take over the role and he'll be much more developed. I think it's a great opportunity to go buy him in Dynasty.
I can see that. I like it. I mean, I'm still on the hill with you guys. I'm still riding that roller coaster.
Yeah. Making the case, baby. Come on. All right.
Yeah,
before we get off,
Will Mallory, just a guy that you could probably pick up after your drafts. And he's got everything you kind of want for a tight end that could succeed as far as athleticism and stuff goes. So,
and like we were talking about, RAS score, very important for tight ends as far as future success goes. 9.06. This guy posted RAS score 9.06. Elite in the explosion grade. Okay, 36.5 vertical, 10-1 broad jump, 4.54 40-yard dash.
Moving.
This guy is. I just he's going to be a sleeper, and I'm putting my money on this guy. That's what I'm doing. At the tight end position, he's up there in my film grades, and I think that he shows out in the athletic scoring, in the athletic testing. That's what you want. I don't know what else we're looking for, and you guys are looking for the late round guys who nobody shows love to. who ends up being, successful, here's your guy. That's what I'm saying. Here's your guy.
Will Mallory, Miami.
All right. Who do we want to talk about? Yeah, one more. Who do we want to talk about?
I think we could maybe Darnell Washington.
Yes, you're right there with me. I was looking at him and Zach Kuntz, and we've talked plenty about Zach Kuntz, and I have a video out there. Let's talk about Darnell Washington. Let's talk about this freak of nature.
Yes.
All right, I'll get into it first. Sorry, I forgot I was doing that. Darnell Washington. So he's a little bit lower in the film grades, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he just doesn't show really good route running, in my opinion, elusiveness or yak ability, right? All the things that I think make tight ends what we want them to be in fantasy. Incredible hands, like as high as a grade as I can, probably give in this class in terms of hands. One best blocker in the class, second best blocker in the class. Or actually, no, he's right up there with the best blocker in the class. Yeah. So the big thing here, okay, I'll just get into my notes. He's a bit stiff in the hips during his routes, but he's 6'7", so I guess that's part of it, right? Still good balance and center of gravity for his size. Great hands, above average blocker, heavy footed. Takes some time to build up speed. More bend than expected for a big man. Plenty of film of him blocking. Less than 3 catches in all of the matchups besides one. Potential, but not sure every week consistent producer, or more of an inline blocker who can sneak out for big playability. That's what I got.
Yeah, that's good. Darnell Washington is a guy, I think if you're watching the combine, just was like Darnell Washington day, right? People are talking about
it really was.
He should be drafted in the first round. I was like, well, let's tap the brakes. But people are like, why not? Why not in the first? I'm like, well, the NFL probably wants to see something more than just he runs fast, 6'7", 264, absolute stud when it comes to athleticism, 96th percentile speed score, 84th percentile 40-yard dash. At his size, running at 4.6 is pretty impressive. The one thing that's not impressive, if I can do my math here real quick, we have 45 career receptions.
That's more than I thought you were going to say.
Okay, I mean, you watched it, so I mean, must have been quick.
No, like it was just that's what I was saying there. Like, there's not much film of him running routes, so
yeah.
So obviously, like, it's hard to give him a high grade there when you only have so much of a sample, but he's clearly not a great route runner. So yeah, he got hit pretty hard in that respect. And honestly, if it weren't for that, he'd probably be higher up my grades, but it's just not there.
But he's certainly big and very fast for his size, which is, again, we're looking at this, that the tight end position, if he didn't do so well at the combine, maybe ran a little bit slower and not completely like blown everything up. Like this might be one of those later round guys that you could, spend a third or fourth on in your rookie drafts, but I'm assuming he probably ends up going a little bit sooner than that. So yeah, I would like to see more production out of him. Again, it's Georgia. I don't watch Georgia play, so I don't know if the tight end position is something that they scheme up there for receptions. I don't really know.
Well, I mean,
I'm not going to lie about it.
Well, I'll tell you right now. They have Brock Bowers,
Oh.
so they're absolutely scheming up stuff for their tight ends, just not him.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And that, you can't really fault him for that because they have two of the better tight ends. Well, not two of the better tight ends in the country, but they have two very good tight end prospects on the team. One who is just a dominant pass catcher, a dominant receiver. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of disconnect those two or even try to evaluate Darnell Washington with them linked together. It's hard to understand, like, okay, did he not get the usage because Brock Bowers is so good, or could he not elevate because he's just not good enough in that regard and they used him however they could use him? Like it's you just don't know if it's like a chicken or egg thing or what it is. Yeah, you don't know.
It's probably because Brock is him.
It's exactly exactly. It's probably because he's the man. Yeah, with Washington, I think I heard he was asked about not who he models his game after, but who he would say plays a similar game in the NFL like he does. And the only guy he could point to due to the lack of, players at that position of his size was Mercedes Lewis, which I thought was a pretty good comp. Like if that's what he is, it's a great career. First of all, in terms of fantasy, you'll get some usefulness out of him if that's what he is. So again, all these guys, we're not reaching for them. We're just not doing it. But worth knowing who they are, worth knowing kind of what to look for. And I think the guys like Will Mallory, I think, Sam Laporta, a couple guys we didn't talk about, Cameron Latu out of Alabama. Like, there's going to be some opportunity in the later rounds and post rookie drafts to grab some guys. So I wouldn't worry about missing. Like, there's going to be some FOMO on this tight end class, 100%, because everybody's talked about how good it is. There's plenty of guys in the middle to late rounds to go after that I wouldn't worry about missing out on the top end talent here. And because they're going to go in the back end of the first or the early second, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Go and grab yourself one of these later guys, put them on your taxi and see what happens. Let them marinate there for a little bit.
That's a great word. They're like a fine piece of meat. You want it to marinate for a while. That's it.
Gotta put it in there. Get that
for about 3 years.
About 3 years. Yeah, put them in about 3 years, and you put them in the oven, 350. But and honestly, something that I did last year, which really got me high on. Oh my God, doesn't even matter. And I can't even think of his name. Watch some interviews with these guys. Watch some interviews, see how they talk. I think that's something that we got from Katie Flower. Just like, hey, see who they are. Like, do they sound like they have a really good head on their shoulders? Are they taking the interviews seriously? Things that they talking about their upbringing, things like that. Like, it kind of matters because once you get older in life and just the way, I don't want to say this without like sounding stuck up or something, but like if you're carrying yourself a certain way, like it's going to help you as you go on in life. So like all these tight ends here that are not going to be getting drafted in the first round, they're going to have a hard road ahead of themselves. And if they're able to carry themselves and have a really good attitude or head on their shoulders, like it's just going to get you through all the rough times of not being on the field that first season or being stuck behind a veteran that's maybe 32 years old and you think that you should be out there because you dominated in college. But like if they put their head to the grindstone and, grind it out, like that's something that you kind of want to look for. That's really long-winded, but what I'm trying to say is try to watch some interviews and get a feel for who these guys are.
I love it. And I think Sam Laporta is one of those guys. If you want good interviews, go watch Sam Laporta out of Iowa. Everybody loves him as a move tight end, as a guy who can catch passes, but the kid just has a great head on his shoulders, and you can tell he's a good guy. So those are the things you want to see. And I will say, I think this is a good clarification for them. I'm looking for a different word here, but I think this is a good way to kind of think about this, is that good interviews and seeing that guys have what the best word for it is, but can carry themselves well is more of a plus. Like, I don't think you should knock guys for not having it as much as you can give them a plus for having it, if that makes sense.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think if they really have, you should give them that plus, but if you don't see it, obviously if it's bad, then yes, that's one thing. If you're like, yo, this guy is not carrying himself well, like at all, like no, that's one thing. But I think yeah, right. And you run into those prospects for sure. But I think for the most part, you shouldn't just like nail guys because the perception of like their off the field stuff, if it's not really solidified or whatever. Again, I think it's much more of a plus than it can be a negative. I'm not going to knock guys for not having it. I'm going to really give guys a nice boost if they do. That's all.
I like it. Good clarification. I had like a little bit of word salad, but yeah, you did better than I did.
And I didn't? Okay. I don't know. Thanks. I don't know. Oh, boy. All right. Can we just touch on this one thing really quick here? I thought this was an interesting trade.
Yep. Let's do it.
Cool. It'll be quick. All right. So I actually got this offer. I did not accept it, but I thought it was interesting. I don't even know what to do with it. Rashad Penny and DJ Moore for the 207 this year and a 24 first.
Man, if Penny didn't have that whole he's never healthy for a whole season thing, like I like his landing spot. I like where he is there, and I think he'll get every opportunity to be a dude there. And DJ Moore, he just puts up 1,000 yards no matter what he does. It's not bad. If you're a team that's contending, that 24 first is probably going to be 110, 111. Like, I take the players here. Why not?
Yeah, well, it's my pick, so it's going to be late. No, I'm kidding. Boy. But yeah, no, I was struggling with this one a little bit. I was like, I don't like it, but it's okay. Like, it seems like it's kind of on the fair side.
Penny for 207, DJ Moore for next year's first.
Yeah, and sure. I think personally, yeah, like I think the 207 is a little rich for what Penny is, but like you said, you can definitely convince yourself, he's going to get every opportunity there, and it's on a great team. So I get that. Okay, let's say it's a wash. 24 first for DJ Moore. Yeah, like how can you, especially if you know for a fact that it's going to at least be in the middle to the end of the first, so you're not giving up like a Marvin Harrison Jr. or something crazy like that for DJ Moore. It kind of makes sense, and I don't even like it. I don't know. I think I'm going to try to get it for cheaper because I feel this way about it, but it's probably a decent deal.
Yeah, and that's just what you do.
Specifically me, yes, that is what I do. All right, that's it. Stop taking up everybody's time and yours.
Whatever. It was a good one, but we'll get out of here. Thank you guys for giving us a listen to this week's episode. Follow us on Twitter, Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, at Willie Beeman DFF. And once Josh Goldberg gets done with all the boat show stuff, he'll be back. Go ahead and give him a follow on Twitter at Josh M. Goldberg92. Join our Discord. It's fun.
Yes. I don't even need to say anything. Uriah's doing it all for me. Let's go.
Y'all have a good night.
Peace out, fam.